Hi, welcome. My name's Dana. I am coming to you from very warm Phoenix, Arizona. Thank you for joining us on the Be Strong Ministries channel. Our passion at Be Strong Ministries is to be strong in Him, which means through Him and because of Him. We simply want to share the hope of the gospel. We want to share the hope of what it means to be a Christian and really encourage one another in this. So I always invite comments and feedback if there's also other topics that you would like to discuss. Today we're going to be discussing, is it okay to be angry at God? When I was younger, from a very young age, I somehow learned that if I'm ever angry with God, then it means I lack faith. If I lack faith, it means I'm a bad Christian. So when I became a teenager, my entire life fell apart. I lost my independence, I lost my health, I lost my job, ability to go to university, I lost my apartment, I lost everything, even my car. I couldn't provide for myself. I lost all that independence and self-sufficiency. And essentially, my life fell apart and I was angry. I felt as a Christian that I had done everything right, that I never rebelled, I had a genuine relationship with the Lord, and I couldn't understand why, despite me doing what I thought everything correct was, that my life still fell apart. So I was very angry with God. And since I had the idea that it wasn't okay to be angry with God, I took all that anger and that punishment and I turned it inward. That's not a good place to be in, and that's not God's best for us. So anger is actually a secondary emotion. It is masking another emotion, be it fear or insecurity or disappointment, whatever it is. Anger is that emotion. Anger is in front of that emotion. So I couldn't understand why I was in the situation I was in. I didn't know how to express my anger towards God because I thought it was banned. It was not something I was allowed to do. And on top of that, I'm already a person who doesn't like to emote. I don't like to admit my emotions. I feel vulnerable. I feel like it shows weakness. That is not healthy, by the way, but I'm just kind of laying the scene, the scenario for this perfect storm that was building with me. This is one of the reasons why talking about this topic is important, because not only was I now in a place of loss and a place of bitter hurt and disappointment, which made me angry, I also didn't know who I could really talk to about expressing this and this situation, because I felt if I were really to admit to those around me what I was going through and how angry I was and how hurt I was, that they would then cast me aside. So I had this perfect storm of just truly immense hurt and bitter disappointment. And it was brewing into this storm of horrible darkness. I couldn't find my way through it. I couldn't find my way out of it. So all of this anger I took and I turned it inward. I am very much a performance-based person. So I assumed, okay, something's off here. I thought I did everything right, and this is how God repays me. So now I feel betrayed. But then as time went on, I thought, well, surely I failed somewhere. I screwed up somewhere, right? Because here I'm trying to reconcile my view of God with the reality of my circumstances. And again, they weren't lining up. So this brought me to a place of, first of all, I didn't trust the Lord anymore. I felt extremely betrayed by Him. I felt hurt by Him, and I was disappointed, and I didn't know where to go or what to do. This situation is so dark. It's so hopeless. It's extremely, if any of you are there right now, you know what I'm talking about. You can't find your way through. You can't find your way around it. You can't find your way of escape, and you don't know how to continue to cope. I wasn't far removed from self-harm. I just took all of that extreme depth of emotion and anger and directed it towards myself mentally. So I'm a loser, I'm worthless, no one will ever love you. They're all lies, but I just tried to solve all of these problems in my head, and I couldn't find a way through it. So that's one of the reasons I want to talk about being angry with God, because He does have a way to bring us through that. And this leads me to the 3 steps. These are 3 short steps on how, if you find yourself in a situation of anger and you're angry at God, whatever the reason, whatever the situation, whatever the frustration, it could be past trauma, it could be something that someone else did to you, it could be a situation your life is in. Maybe you're facing bankruptcy, maybe you're facing loss, the loss of a spouse, the loss of a child. Whatever the situation is, you find yourself in a place where you are extremely angry at God and you don't know what to do. First step towards healing and moving beyond that anger, you actually have to admit that's where you are and that's how you feel. God created you on purpose for a purpose. You are not a mistake, and God does not make mistakes. He already knows how you feel, and He already knows the situation and the circumstances you're in. You can't keep anything from Him. So just stop where you're at and be honest with Him. And also admit the reality of your circumstances. To try and deny that your life fell apart, to try and deny that really things aren't as bad as they are, and you're gonna just try the route of denial, that also doesn't work. So that first step is admitting how you feel, expressing it to God, saying, God, I'm angry. God, I'm hurt. God, I don't understand. God, I don't know why you allowed this to happen to me. God, I don't know why you're allowing this circumstance or situation to occur. Being honest with Him and expressing that to Him is that first step. The second step is surrender. Surrendering to God. Now, I am speaking to those of you who have a personal relationship with Jesus Christ. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you've never heard the gospel before, or you have heard the gospel, but you don't really know what it means, or you haven't responded to it, very simply, here's the gospel. I fall short, 100% grace. It's through the life, death, and resurrection of Jesus Christ that I can now have His salvation and experience this newness of life. That's the gospel in a nutshell. So I'm speaking to those of you who have accepted the gospel. Surrender to Him. If you haven't, surrender to Him now. Surrendering is not passivity. Surrendering to God means I am completely alert and aware and conscious and understanding that I am making a choice to say, God, be God of my life. I no longer want myself to run my life. I no longer want my motives, my decisions, my dreams, my intentions making all of the decisions. I want God to come back and be on the throne of my life and make the decisions. That's surrender. And it takes an act of the will, so to speak, to be able to stop and say, okay, God, be God in my life. And the third thing, ask Him to reveal Himself to you. I grew up Christian. I have had a relationship with the Lord ever since I was young, a kid. I am dumbfounded, amazed at how many misconceptions I had about God. And I'm sure there are still a few misconceptions I have about Him. When my life fell apart, I had to come back to square one. I had to say, okay, God, this doesn't make any sense. This isn't lining up. I don't understand why my circumstances are such. And I had to come all the way back to square one and say, okay, God, we're going to break this down into simplicity. Who are you? Who am I? And how does my relationship with you and how you created me help me live my life? And I had to break it down to the very simple basics and foundation. I had to go back to scripture and I had to say, Holy Spirit, reveal to me who you really are. Expose every lie I've ever believed about you. Expose every lie I have believed about myself. Show me who you are. And teach me and train me again what it means to trust you, what it means to have faith in you, what it means to have faith as a daughter of God. Ask Him to reveal Himself to you and reveal those same things to you, and He will. In hindsight, I would not trade those 20 years of spending most of my life bedridden. of never being able to be a doctor the way I dreamed, of essentially losing all of my identity and my worth for a period of time because I needed that rebuilt based on what God said, not on what I said. I would not trade all of those 20 years for all the gold in the world today. And that is because having to come to the end of myself, having to come to the point where my life did fall apart, bringing me to the point where I hit that brick wall, and it didn't matter how tough I was, how innovative I was, how much I'm going to push myself through this, I'm going to overcome this. I had to come to the end of myself where I finally was in a place where I was willing to say, God, show me who you are. So circling back to the beginning, it is okay to be angry with God, but don't stay there. Don't take your anger out on those around you. Don't direct that anger inward either. Stop, admit, God, this is where I'm at. I'm angry and I don't understand. Surrender to Him. Lord, here I am. Have my life. And last, ask Him to show Himself to you. Thank you for taking these few minutes with me today. If you have any questions or comments, please feel free to leave those. If you also have topics that you're wondering about or you would like me to address them, you can also leave those in the comment section and I will do my best to get to those. But I just want to close, if I may, with a prayer for you that God would speak to you right where you're at, that you would be able to be honest and stop and accept His invitation into your life to be God of your life and to show you who He really is. Have an awesome day.